The old devil, Lu Zhou, finally wielded the nameless sword. Under the blessing of the Buddha's golden body, he held the nameless sword and charged directly towards the demonic sword, ready for a head-on confrontation. The demonic sword, filled with battle intent, vibrated and hummed as if welcoming its adversary. With a loud bang, a point of light rapidly expanded from the collision point, scattering primal energy like a wild wind. The gale was as sharp as ice blades, following the falling swords. Lu Zhou did not look at the nameless sword in his hand. The sensation in his palm told him that the nameless sword was intact. He stared unblinkingly at the demonic sword ahead. The countdown to impenetrable began. 3 seconds. When the time was up, the Buddha's golden body dissipated on schedule and all became quiet. All the swords of the 7 absolute array fell, densely embedded around, making the slightly elevated terrains look like hedgehogs. The demonic sword was undamaged, but strangely, it did not choose to continue attacking and instead hovered in front, slightly trembling. The tip of the sword, originally pointed directly at Lu Zhou's forehead, slowly and slightly tilted, now targeting the nameless sword in Lu Zhou's hand. Lu Zhou frowned slightly, feeling somewhat frustrated. Can't even impenetrable suppress this demonic sword? What should I do? I only have one last peak experience card left. The cultivators near the sword tomb, watching the one-on-one standoff in the sky, were not only amazed but also baffled. It was certain that the Buddha's golden body was much stronger than the void, suggesting there was hope in subduing the demonic sword. The various grades of long swords scattered on the ground were their treasures. The fear brought by the demonic sword was fading. At this moment, the demonic sword made another trembling sound. Thinking it was about to attack, Lu Zhou raised his right hand and provocatively swung the nameless sword. To everyone's surprise, the demonic sword actually took a step back at this moment. Jian Aijian was extremely surprised. Being one of the top 3 sword fanatics, he declared, "Dragon Roar can only rank second. The senior sword is really beautiful." Lu Zhou looked suspiciously at the demonic sword, spread his right hand, and the nameless sword flew out. Under his control, the nameless sword charged directly at the demonic sword. The demonic sword did not choose to collide head-on, but instinctively dodged backwards. The nameless sword then flew back to Lu Zhou's hand. Seeing this, Lu Zhou nodded. Although the collision did not break the demonic sword, it had instilled fear in it. This scenario was a bit odd. He threw the nameless sword out again. Since the demonic sword feared the nameless, it was time to let the nameless unleash its rightful power. Forceful energy surrounded the nameless, doubling from 2 to 4 and 4 to 8. Countless nameless sword energies appeared. The fluctuations of primal energy and the intensity of forceful energy were not very strong, but the demonic sword still felt the threat from the nameless. The flying swords around the 7 absolute array vibrated simultaneously as if responding to the demonic sword's summons. In an instant, all the flying swords swiftly flew into the air, each heading towards the unknown target. Seeing this scene, Lu Zhou quickly retreated a distance, thinking that this time things had gone too far and he might have to use another impenetrable talisman if necessary. However, it turned out his worries were somewhat unnecessary, as the sword group summoned by the demonic sword all attacked the unknown target. A continuous series of loud crashing sounds followed, and after a fierce struggle, a huge horizontal halo appeared centered around the unknown, striking all the sword group, which fell to the ground. After the special energy burst, the nameless sword returned to its original form, hovering in midair, emitting a faint red light. The swords fell and broke, with sounds of fracturing heard. The lower grade swords could not withstand this terrible force and were destroyed on the spot. Even the higher grade swords trembled as they lay on the ground after falling. The despair of the watching cultivators eventually erupted. Every sword that had collided with the nameless sword was scratched or even broken. As the sword group dissipated, the cultivators below widened their eyes in disbelief. What kind of sword is this? It's too powerful. I've studied poetry and books for decades just for the chance to pick up a good sword today. But now all the swords are gone. The low grade ones are all shattered. Everything is over. Although it's a pity that the lower grade weapons were destroyed, the remaining undamaged ones are naturally good swords. No need to filter anymore. Jian Aijian's eyes were peach blossoms. Aside from the demonic sword, other swords simply did not match up as opponents for that sword. His eyes gleamed, almost willing to throw away the dragon roar. His eyes were full of the nameless sword. Lu Zhou was also surprised. The sharpness of the nameless sword far exceeded his expectations. At that moment, the demonic sword finally charged forward. Lu Zhou mobilized primal energy, controlling the nameless sword to meet it head-on. After 3 consecutive collisions, the demonic sword was repelled. This time, it wasn't as lucky as before. The demonic sword fell, barely stabilizing its form. The 7 absolute array was extinguished. Without the sword group, the 7 absolute array could not operate. Qin Jun sat up straight, somewhat incredulously watching the ground where the 7 absolute array lay, unable to find the array's core. How could it extinguish without reason? This was unreasonable. He looked around, still finding nothing unusual or eerie. As for Jian Aijian, he seemed to have lost his soul, staring straight at the nameless sword, nearly drooling, with the dragon roar sword in his arms seeming less appealing. Lu Zhou floated upright, also looking at the nameless sword. Just then, with a bang, the demonic sword landed right in the center of the 7 absolute array, buzzing and trembling. trembling. The previously gathered inscriptions, like bees, emerged from the sword's body. The nameless sword flew towards the sky, leaving Lu Zhou puzzled. He did not immediately recall the nameless sword, but quietly watched. One by one, the inscriptions converged towards the nameless sword, eventually all entering into it. Everyone stared in astonishment as the demonic sword submitted. All the energy nurtured over many years was about to be taken by the senior's sword. In the world of swords, it seems much simpler than that of humans. The victor is king, and the defeated are vanquished. The demonic sword actually submitted, lying prostrate on the ground. Who would have thought it would end like this? The demonic sword trembled on the ground, its inscriptions continuously flying towards the nameless sword. Thousands of inscriptions from a huge tombstone rose slowly like black smoke. Lu Zhou looked suspiciously at the nameless sword. Since obtaining the nameless, all he could do was study its sharpness and try to determine its grade. After absorbing energy, would the power of the nameless sword increase? Moments later, the demonic sword lay flat, motionless, its inscriptions completely absorbed by the nameless sword. Lu Zhou distinctly felt the red light on the nameless sword become more intense, and it seemed to have grown slightly in length. The grade, still no clear concept. He raised his hand, and with a slight thought, the nameless sword transformed into a black hammer, then shifted into various weapons. Unfortunately, the nameless sword only had that eerie inscription energy surrounding it when in sword form. Clearly, the sword form was much stronger than other forms. Had this weapon not yet reached its intended grade? Lu Zhou understood. Now was not the time to study the nameless. After a brief calculation, he realized that he had damaged 2 impenetrables this time, yet earned no merit at all. He walked towards the direction of the demonic sword, where the tombstone had shattered. Apart from 8 broken chains and scattered debris, there was nothing else. Only a few swords on the ground were not destroyed. The ones that survived this battle were, of course, the good swords. Nearby, injured cultivators continually got up and kowtowed towards Lu Zhou, repeatedly thanking him. "Thank you, elder. Thank you, master. You are our reborn parents. Accept our bow." Ding. Received 15 devout bows. Earned 150 merit points. Hearing this notification, Lu Zhou couldn't help but laugh and cry. The path of my benevolence is long and arduous. Most of the cultivators from the 4 major sects have perished. The rest are from smaller sects and not a threat. Lu Zhou approached the demonic sword, just about to pick it up for inspection, when suddenly the monk Kong Yuan sat up, bewildered. His eyes widened as he looked around, and upon seeing the scene clearly, his expression turned to one of disbelief. What happened? How much time has passed? The 7 absolute array was gone, and the demonic sword lay on the ground. I remember now. I came to seize the demonic sword, Kong Yuan muttered to himself. During the fight, he had been knocked down by the demonic sword. Luckily, Buddha's beads protected him from a lethal strike. "It's you!" Kong Yuan's expression turned from surprise to anger, his double determination seal trembling and blooming. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and smiled. Kong Yuan was oblivious to what had just happened, but the demonic sword was something he was determined to obtain. "No one shall touch what belongs to me. I don't care how you broke the 7 absolute array. I must take this demonic sword with me." Lu Zhou was actually unexpectedly pleased and hopeful about Kong Yuan's survival. Kong Yuan raised his palm and said, "Only the capable can earn the appreciation of the old benefactor." Lu Zhou shook his head expressionlessly. "I have said, Zen is Zen, and demon is demon. Zen that has entered demon is not true Zen. Are you teaching me how to cultivate?" Kong Yuan laughed sarcastically and did not withdraw the double determination seal, instead showing a dismissive expression. "The demon Zen of Suixinchang is but child's play. How can it be compared with me? In this world, only I can cultivate demon Zen. I am the foremost in demon Zen." Seeing this, Lu Zhou frowned slightly, paused, and said word by word, "Frog in a well. I shall teach you what demon Zen is." Kong Yuan sensed trouble. Although the old man before him did not show strong fluctuations of primal energy, he felt an indescribable threat. The nearby cultivators were stunned. Who exactly is this old gentleman? He can actually compete with Kong Yuan. People couldn't help but recall the infighting within Buddhism, especially the giant Buddha's golden body recently. They remembered that days ago, there had been a conflict between Heaven Chosen Temple and Great Void Temple that spread throughout the cultivation world. Great Void Temple sent people to punish Heaven Chosen Temple, and later for some unknown reason, the 4 divine monks perished and Heaven Chosen Temple vanished, leaving everyone puzzled. Today's scene seemed much like an internal struggle within Buddhism. Lu Zhou stood upright, his arm curved forward, palm extending. A small imprint appeared, Mini Fearless Seal. Kong Yuan showed a look of disdain. "Mini Fearless Seal? Is this what you call the true demon Zen?" Before he could finish speaking, the palm imprint rapidly enlarged, transforming into a several meters tall Mini Fearless Seal, which then instantly became a large Fearless Seal, and it was an ink black large Fearless Seal. The cultivators exclaimed, This is a cultivator. When did Buddhism produce a dual Zen cultivator? What is going on? Is there no justice left? Is there no justice left?" Under the state of the double determination seal, Kong Yuan immediately manifested the Buddha's golden body, disdainfully saying, "Even the large Fearless Seal cannot trouble me." But no sooner had he spoken than the large Fearless Seal grew even larger, making the Buddha's golden body look like a small pendant, seemingly insignificant, held in the palm of an even larger black palm imprint. With a loud bang, the whole world quieted down. Kong Yuan had no time to react and instantly turned to ash and disappeared. Ding! Killed a nascent divinity tribulation realm target. Earned 1,500 merit points. Kong Yuan, the head of the 4 major Buddhist sects and abbot of the Great Void Temple, renowned as the foremost dual Zen practitioner of ancient and modern times, thus fell. Everyone stared dumbfounded at this scene. Even the demonic sword seemed to tremble with fear. Lu Zhou shook his head, neither gain nor loss. The many cultivators remained in shock for a long time. Then, a crisp sound came, and Jian Aijian's dragon roar sword fell to the ground. He hurriedly picked up his beloved dragon roar sword, held it in his arms, and wiped it with his sleeve. When the elder does not act, he already commands respect. When he does act, the world submits. Jian Aijian, respect no one but the elder. At that moment, a string of prayer beads fell from the sky. Ding! Obtained Buddha's prayer beads must be recultivated before use. Lu Zhou casually waved his hand, and the Buddha's prayer beads flew into his palm. This counts as an unexpected gain. Then, he picked up the nearby demonic sword. As soon as he touched it, the sword transmitted a bone-chilling coldness and trembled slightly, seemingly trying to break free from his control. Indeed, it is no ordinary item. Lu Zhou was just about to inspect it closely. However, just then, a strange sound suddenly came from the corridor. Lu Zhou was about to look towards the corridor where the noise came from, when Jian Aijian awkwardly poked his head over to his side. Elder, Lu Zhou glanced at him. You want it? Jian Aijian sheepishly scratched his head. The energy of the inscriptions is the essence of the demonic sword. Without the inscriptions, the sword is like a soulless body, unattractive. Only collectors like me care about such things. After pondering for a moment, Lu Zhou tossed the demonic sword to him. Jian Aijian caught the demonic sword, overjoyed. Thank you, Elder. I am willing to serve you diligently for another 10 years. Just then, the creaking sound grew louder. Qin Jun spoke with a trembling voice. That's the corridor leading to the royal tomb. It seems it was breached long ago. Jian Aijian gleefully took out a rope from his bosom, slung the demonic sword on his back, and excitedly said, the happiest thing in life is getting what you want. Will you come again later, Elder? Hearing this, Lu Zhou frowned slightly and looked at him. Jian Aijian hurriedly waved his hands and volunteered to check out the situation. After saying this, he cautiously walked towards the corridor with the demonic sword on his back. Just as he reached the entrance, a dark shadow suddenly flew out from the corridor. Jian Aijian instinctively activated forceful energy to protect himself, but he was still knocked back several meters by the impact. Everyone recognized the black rectangular object and exclaimed, my god, it's a coffin. The ink-colored coffin did not continue to attack but hovered at the entrance of the corridor. Jian Aijian used the momentum to leap back out of the corridor area, his face pale, exclaiming, what a cursed day, why such bad luck? Qin Jun stared in disbelief. Is it a living dead? Jian Aijian shook his head. The dead cannot be revived. There are no living dead. It's all people pretending. Just as he finished speaking, a hoarse voice suddenly came from the coffin. You've intruded into the Sword Tomb's crypt. The voice was deep and muffled. Little Yuan glanced at Jian Aijian and said, you go talk to him. This coffin is very likely your ancestor. Her words were quite straightforward. After all, the coffin came out from the corridor and was placed in the royal tomb, naturally belonging to the royal family. Qin Jun widened his eyes in surprise and looked at Jian Aijian. Is he from the royal family, or is this girl just teasing? Jian Aijian scratched his head and addressed the coffin. I am Jian Aijian. May I ask how the elder is addressed? A deep voice came from the coffin. Young man. Jian Aijian looked at himself. What's wrong with being young, strong and handsome? The voice from the coffin continued. Under the heavens, only one person can break the demonic sword. Let him come out. The coffin was indeed clever. Jian Aijian glanced at Lu Zhou nearby. No wonder. The elder had been concealing his energy fluctuations, appearing very weak and unnoticeable, thus overlooked by the coffin. At that moment, Lu Zhou finally spoke. When he spoke, everyone was shocked. Is it you? They know each other? After a moment of silence, the coffin spoke again. Indeed, it is you. Lu Zhou gently stroked his beard, saying indifferently, I thought you had died long ago. Didn't expect you to be hiding here. The coffin emitted a strange laugh. Old friend, everyone dies. I just came here early to wait for death. Lu Zhou nodded. I'm afraid that's not the case. The demonic sword, the 7 absolute array, the inscriptions. Do you really think you can find a way to extend your lifespan? The crowd caught on to this key word, not even daring to breathe out loud. Since ancient times, every cultivator at the pinnacle has sought the truth of life, how to break through the ultimate limits, even seeking immortality. This issue is too high-end. Only the top figures have the right to research and discuss it. The coffin then counter-asked, aren't you the same? Lu Zhou felt a slight stir in his heart, but his expression remained calm. I have long seen through life and death. A hoarse voice of doubt came from the coffin. Considering the time, your lifespan should also be reaching its end. Are you still guarding the evil sky pavilion? At these words, the many cultivators watching the scene were scared out of their wits. If they couldn't understand this, they were truly fools. This elderly man in front of them was the founding master of the evil sky pavilion, the infamous G-Old Devil who dominated the world. He is G-Old Devil. The cultivators were mentally shocked, feeling shattered, wanting to cry but unable to shed tears. They had survived the sword sword group, endured unbearable fear. They had escaped from monk Gong Yuan, the demonic sword, and now another terrifying demon they most feared had appeared. They had to run for their lives. Lu Zhou did not care about these minor sect cultivators, bearing them no grudge, letting them go as they wished. He looked at the coffin and said, Gong Yuan Du, although I'm older than you, I will surely live longer. Hearing this, Gong Yuan Du in the coffin let out a reluctant laugh. Perhaps, in this life, I wanted to have a final showdown with Brother Ji, but alas, time spares no one. My cultivation gradually returns to the cosmos. I just didn't expect to meet Brother Ji here. Lu Zhou asked again, did you set up the 7 absolute array and the demonic sword? Gong Yuan Du shook his head. I don't understand arrays, implying that indeed, the demonic sword and the inscriptions were his doing. So many years have passed. Have you gained any insights while in this coffin? Gong Yuan Du sighed deeply. My swordsmanship has indeed progressed, but my cultivation is limited, unable to be demonstrated. I'm afraid I can't continue to fight with you. The square-faced commentator, though trembling with fear, was not scripted to flee due to the needs of the plot. Reflecting on the past, both were remarkable figures. How much Gong Yuan Du wanted to defeat Lu Zhou, probably only he himself knew best. To snatch the treasures of the evil Sky Pavilion. The idea of killing the world's #1 demon has been countless. Gong Yuan Du joked from within the coffin. I'm curious, what is the Pavilion Lord of the mighty evil Sky Pavilion doing in the sword tomb? Is it for my demonic sword? You have far more treasures in your possession than I do. Lu Zhou replied, there is something of mine in the foundation of the Eternal Emperor's tomb. Ji brother is as stingy as ever. Is this what you are referring to? As soon as Gong Yuan Du finished speaking, with a snap, the coffin lid flipped 360 degrees upwards. A book flew out from the coffin, and the lid fell back into place, perfectly resealing it. Only a true master could manipulate a coffin lid so precisely. Lu Zhou, quick to react, caught the book, which was cold to the touch and chilling. The book cover was meticulously wrapped, featuring royal exclusive colors and dragon patterns. Ding! Obtained a lower fragment of the heavenly writing scroll. Hearing the notification, Lu Zhou was very satisfied and casually tossed the book to Little Yuaner beside him. Little Yuaner caught it and flipped through curiously, but after a while, she could not understand it and soon lost interest. Jian Aijian came over wanting to take a look, but was rebuffed by Little Yuaner with a sharp scram. At this moment, Gong Yuan Du's voice resounded again. In the foundation of the Eternal Emperor's tomb, only this item is worth a look. The rest are mere trinkets. Since Ji brother is here to raid a tomb, probably only this item caught your eye. Lu Zhou nodded. What I sought is indeed this item. Gong Yuan Du sighed helplessly. The book contains special energy. I have never been able to decipher it. The Eternal Emperor used it as a burial object. Presumably it's a treasure, so I kept it with me. Gong Yuan Du's explanation clarified everything. Lu Zhou's purpose was accomplished. There was no need to dig further into Jian Aijian's ancestral tomb. Gong Yuan Du, if you wish to leave, I can take you along, Lu Zhou said. From within the coffin, Gong Yuan Du's voice sounded more subdued. No, I probably won't outlive you. Lu Zhou looked directly at the coffin. You are still 100 years from your end. How many ordinary people live to 100? It's even rarer among cultivators. Seeing his pessimistic tone, Lu Zhou did not persist. After all, this fellow had competed with him many times over the past years, but it was just the natural cycle of old replacing new, birth and death. If that's the case, I won't insist, Lu Zhou said, ready to leave. Suddenly, Gong Yuan Du from inside the coffin sighed, emitting a vigorous, forceful energy. Before my time comes, may I have one last battle with Brother Ji? Lu Zhou stood in place after hearing this, not immediately responding. Everyone else looked towards the coffin in surprise. An adversary remains an adversary, even on the brink of death, not forgetting to drag someone down with him. Little Yuaner angrily said, what's wrong with you? My master just fought several battles. Even if you win, it would be a hollow victory, and besides, you're not even a match for my master. The coffin moved slightly, emitting a chuckle. With your temperament, it's impressive you still have disciples around you. Respect, respect. Lu Zhou couldn't be bothered to engage, he indifferently said. Then come out and fight. Little Yuaner chimed in. Exactly. What skill is there in hiding in a coffin like a shrinking turtle? Originally, the girl had some sympathy for Gong Yuan Du, thinking he hid in the coffin seeking a chance to live, but now that little sympathy had completely vanished. Jian Aijian tried to persuade, Elder, since he is an old acquaintance, why must you fight to the death? Moreover, you've said yourself that your end is near. Surely your cultivation has also diminished, so how can there be a fight? Gong Yuan Du, hearing Jian Aijian's words, slowly said, you misunderstand. If I am to battle Brother Ji, it must be fair and equal. I would not take advantage of someone's weakness. 1 month later, at Evil Sky Pavilion, we meet. Lu Zhou indifferently responded, I don't mind. I'm just afraid you won't last a month. Gong Yuan Du chuckled hoarsely. See you in a month. If I don't make it, then it's fate. Obsessed all my life. It's time to accept fate. When the end comes, no one can say for sure. It might be today or a year from now. Jian Aijian addressed the coffin. Since you're staying in the tomb, show some respect. Don't damage anything inside. Gong Yuan Du, puzzled. What does it have to do with you? Jian Aijian scratched his head and laughed. Respect for the deceased. At this moment, Lu Zhou glanced at the scattered long swords on the ground. Jian Aijian shook his head saying, I don't want these inferior inferior items. Qin Jun awkwardly scratched his head, asking, "Can I pick a couple to take back?" Jian Ijian glanced at him. "Help yourself." Overjoyed, Qin Jun picked up a few of the best-looking Earth-tier weapons. Jian Ijian laughed. "You've got a good eye there. A gentleman loves his sword and chooses it wisely. It turns out we're kindred spirits. My apologies for not recognizing it sooner." Mutual. Lu Zhou paid no attention to them and walked away, hands behind his back, heading out of the sword tomb. Little Yuaner followed her master out of sword tomb. "Master, who was in that coffin?" Little Yuaner asked curiously. "An old acquaintance," Lu Zhou replied indifferently. "You have friends?" "More precisely, that was an enemy," Lu Zhou explained as they walked. "Does master have any friends?" "I have many friends." After reaching outside the sword tomb, Lu Zhou immediately summoned Whitesword. He didn't rush to mount Whitesword but turned around to call Jian Ijian's name. "Is there something you need, elder?" Jian Ijian approached and asked. "Xiao Yu is still in the palace. Look after her for me." Jian Ijian agreed with a smile. "No problem, rest assured. But there's something I need to notify you about." "What is it?" Lu Zhou inquired. "Your seventh disciple, Siwuya, has probably traced it back to me. When it comes to intelligence, I'm no match for him. His people keep interfering with my informants, and I've lost quite a few these last few days. At least 5. All important eyes and ears. If possible, could you find an opportunity to give him a warning?" After hearing this, Lu Zhou stroked his beard and nodded. "I'll keep it in mind." With that, he leaped onto Whitesword, taking Qin Jun and Little Yuaner, and flew towards the direction of Evil Sky Pavilion. In a tranquil residence, Yi Zhixing came before Siwuya to report. The elder has safely left the tomb, and the demonic sword has fallen into Jian Ijian's hands. Siwuya sighed. "Good that he's left. Have you dug up anything on Jian Ijian's background? This person's whereabouts are mysterious and erratic. We haven't found anything yet. Keep searching." "Any news from the other 4 rats?" "Master, there's no news from the 5 rats yet." "What about Evil Sky Pavilion?" Siwuya continued to ask. The subordinate answered, "I believe the 5 rats wouldn't dare to approach Evil Sky Pavilion again. Now with someone like Lun Luo there, for Lun Luo to kill the 5 rats would be like taking something out of a bag." Siwuya waved his hand. "Better safe than sorry." Yi Zhixing bowed and responded, "Yes." "How are things on Big Brother's end?" "The Orthodox sect is divided into 6 altars. The Green Jade altar is the hardest to conquer. The other 5 altars pose no problem." "What sect leader you means to ask is for your opinion," Yi Zhixing said. Siwuya thought for a moment. "I and the 8th disciple had explored the Green Jade altar before, secretly sketching out the formation map. Pass this formation map to Big Brother. I will obey the master's orders." Siwuya knew well Yu Zhenhai's intentions. With Clarity sect destroyed, how could the Orthodox sect be far behind? Big Brother has been eager to take down the Orthodox sect. The so-called asking for opinions is merely a pretext to get the formation maps. Meanwhile, inside Evil Sky Pavilion, Lu Zhou returned here riding Whitesword. Just as he entered the Great Hall, Duan Mushing knelt down and said, "You're finally back." Lu Zhou noticed his pale complexion and asked, "What happened?" Duan Mushing answered, "Lu Qiuping was rescued by someone." Lu Zhou frowned slightly. These rats are really bold, having been taught a lesson at Evil Sky Pavilion last time, yet still so foolhardy. "Where is the 4th?" Duan Mushing was surprised by this question. "The 4th? The 4th went to the Divine Capital. Didn't Master see him?" Lu Zhou had just returned from the Divine Capital and had not encountered Ming Shirin, likely having just missed him. However, he wasn't worried about Ming Shirin getting into trouble, as Ming Shirin always managed to bring him surprises. "Let him be," Lu Zhou said indifferently. Given the current situation, Lu Zhou no longer needed to strictly control Ming Shirin and others as he did when he first crossed over. Duan Mushing continued, "However, they didn't steal anything, only rescued Lu Qiuping. Elder Hua and Miss Flower injured them. These rats are really cunning." As soon as he finished speaking, Hua Wudao and Flowers and Moon Journey came from afar, bowed, and said, "We were incompetent and let the 5 rats escape. Please punish us, Pavilion Lord." Hua Wudao, after all, is not good at offensive tactics, so it's understandable that he couldn't handle the 5 rats. But Flowers and Moon Journey, as a divine archer, also letting the 5 rats escape shows just how cunning the 5 rats are. Lu Zhou remained silent for a moment, then said, "We'll discuss the matter of the 5 rats later. You may all leave." After being busy for several days, he wanted some quiet. Everyone bowed, said yes, and then withdrew. Meanwhile, not far from Golden Court Mountain, in the woods, the chattering of rats was heard. "Big Brother, the 5th brother's cultivation has been sealed, and it can't be undone quickly. What should we do now?" one rat asked. Han Yufang, the leader of the 5 rats, replied, "The most dangerous place is the safest. Evil Sky Pavilion would never expect that we are resting near Golden Court Mountain." The second brother, Su Wen, nodded. "Big Brother is wise, but this can't go on forever, right? It's been 2 days already." The third brother, Jiang Tang, spit out the foxtail grass in his mouth and added, "I think Big Brother is right. We move when the opportunity arises. Rescuing someone was bound to alert others. Once we recover from our injuries, it will be our time to shine." The fourth brother, Lu Yunbai, agreed. "Big Brother, third brother has a point. Rescuing people isn't our forte. It's a pity we didn't manage to steal anything in our 2 attempts on Evil Sky Pavilion. Fortune favors the bold, and we've already offended Evil Sky Pavilion. Once we steal the treasures, we'll find a place place to lie low. In 5 or 10 years, once the old demon is buried, who can do anything to us? Lu Qiuping, enduring the pain in his body, gratefully said, "Thank you, big brother, second brother, third brother, fourth brother, for risking your lives to save me. We're all brothers here. Don't speak of it as if you're an outsider," Han Yufang said. As the rats were discussing, a cold wind suddenly swept through the woods. Han Yufang, the leader of the 5 rats, alertly turned his head to look deep into the forest. Cultivators are inherently sensitive, and the 5 rats, naturally sharp, became vigilant with the sudden strange wind. They quickly got up and looked around. At that moment, a figure gradually appeared near the path. She was draped in a silver cloak, dressed in a white dress, wearing white shoes, holding a white umbrella, with white hair flowing, her face delicate, features captivating, and her demeanor as ethereal as a fairy not of this world. After being expelled from Evil Sky Pavilion, Yi Tianqin finally reappeared. Her demeanor was still celestial, untouched by worldly dust. The 5 rats were stunned, having never seen a woman dressed like this, truly a heavenly sight. Han Yufang stepped forward and asked, "May I know the young lady's name, where she comes from, and where she is going? It's quite desolate out here. Why don't I send you back?" The woman standing opposite slightly lifted her eyes, her gaze sweeping over the 5 men. The leader of the 5 rats, Han Yufang, was startled and became cautious. "Does the lady know us? See, our reputation as the 5 rats has spread far and wide." Han Yufang laughed. "We are the 5 rats. This is my elder brother, Han Yufang, who moves without a shadow, seeing all. This is my second brother, Su Wan, who moves without trace through the mountains. I am Jiang Tang, unmatched in the water. Beside me is my 4th brother, Lu Yunbai, skilled in escaping. And lastly, my youngest brother, Lu Qiuping, as swift as the breeze." The woman nodded slightly. "Very well." Han Yufang, puzzled, continued to ask, "Miss, you haven't answered my question." The woman calmly stated, "Answering or not, it matters little, for you are all but dead men." Han Yufang frowned. "Why would you say such a thing? You aren't planning to capture us, are you? Just so you know, we escaped from the hands of the Evil Sky Pavilion's archer, and Evil Sky Pavilion couldn't stop us either." The woman in white spoke indifferently. "Let's get going." With that, she emitted a strong surge of primal energy, tossed her white umbrella lightly upwards, and then, like lightning, she brought up a gust of cold wind and pounced towards the 5 men. Han Yufang was terrified. "No, no!" As soon as he spoke, the woman in white appeared in front of Han Yufang like a specter, and the disc-like object in her hand spun out, decapitating him. The other rats realized instantly that this woman in white was a high-level cultivator in the nascent divinity tribulation realm, wielding a heavenly tier weapon. "Run for your lives!" They scattered in all directions, trying to escape. However, as they split up, the disc in the woman's hand swept through them at a terrifying speed. She flickered among them, turning into 4 figures, and quickly caught up with each. "Who are you really? We 5 rats have no grievances with you." Jiang Tang cried out in terror. The woman in white coldly answered, "Evil Sky Pavilion, Yi Tianqin." Yi Tianqin. These 3 words extinguished all hope for them. In a blink, the 5 rats were all dead. The floating white umbrella slowly returned to Yi Tianqin's hand. She turned and walked towards the direction of Tangzi Town. Not long after, a few ordinary people from Tangzi Town arrived at the site where the 5 rats lay dead. They stared at the bodies for a long time. "She told us to bring these bodies to the foot of Golden Court Mountain. What if those demons kill us? Don't think too much. Making money is not easy. Many people die in the cultivation world every day. Get to work. Don't just stand there." Meanwhile, in Evil Sky Pavilion, Lu Zhou looked at the ancient sheepskin map on the table. As expected, the map showed clear outlines of the Divine Capital and Sword Tomb, precisely marking the locations of 3 heavenly writing scrolls. Of course, this includes Evil Sky Pavilion. Lu Zhou stroked his beard while studying the map. It seemed that the map wasn't just for locating heavenly writing scrolls. Now that the heavenly writing scrolls had been gathered, had the map lost its value? After pondering for a long time, he still had no clue. Next, Lu Zhou took out the last piece of the heavenly writing scroll, and with a slight gesture, he solidified the energy. With a bang, the outer shell of the scroll fragment shattered, scattering on the ground. Ding! Obtained heavenly writing scroll. The heavenly writing scroll turned into specks of starlight, drifting towards Lu Zhou's body and gradually merging into him, slowly disappearing. Lu Zhou sat cross-legged, ready to enter a state of contemplation for the heavenly writing. But then he thought, what if contemplating the 3rd type of heavenly writing technique caused the price of props to increase? He checked the current prices, and the next second, his face darkened and his mouth gaped open. This price hike is outrageous. Just for gaining 1 technique? Not even increasing cultivation level has such a price hike. Lu Zhou faintly felt that the price was related to what he had obtained. The frequency and usage of props like Whitesword and the violent winds seemed to have triggered the price increase. The price of reversal card hadn't changed, but the price for 9th Revolution Dark Bright Avatar reached 30,000 merit points, which was ridiculous. Considering the current situation, earning merit points through killing was no longer feasible. This kind of pricing would not only fail to earn him anything, but might even cause him to lose money. Lu Zhou sighed. "Take it slow. Let's buy Lethal Strike first. Let's just go for all the draws." True to expectations, he accumulated 41 points of luck. Lu Zhou shook his head, then entered a state of contemplation for the heavenly heavenly writing. Sure enough, once in the state of contemplation, the heavenly writing characters in his mind became more active than before, almost as if they had a life of their own, pulsating. Although he still didn't understand the specific meanings of these characters, he very much enjoyed this tranquil and comfortable state, forgetting both self and surroundings, and casting aside all distractions. What will the third heavenly writing technique be? He wondered silently to himself. Meanwhile, outside Evil Sky Pavilion, Hua Wudao and Flowers and Moon Journey were waiting outside the Eastern Pavilion. Little Yuaner and Duan Mushing hurried over after hearing the news. What's the hurry? Bodies of the 5 rats were found under Golden Court Mountain. It's unclear who killed them. Duan Mushing frowned upon hearing this. The 5 rats are so cunning. How could they be killed? Hua Wudao nodded. There must have been someone watching them. When the 5 rats left, they were already wounded by me and Flowers and Moon Journey. And although they are indeed good at escaping, if a master had closed in for the kill, it's not incomprehensible. The problem is, we don't know who did it. Duan Mushing pondered for a moment. Could it have been the 4th brother? Ming Shireen went to the divine capital. He had no reason to stay at the foot of the mountain. Everyone fell into deep thought, their minds filled with confusion. It couldn't be him, could it? Little sister, do you know who it is? Little Yuaner huffed. Some weirdo living in a coffin, named Gong Yuandu. This person is crazy. The world is so big, yet he chooses to crawl into a coffin. Really spooky. Hua Wudao was somewhat speechless. It was normal for the young not to know about Gong Yuandu, but for an elder like Hua Wudao, the name Gong Yuandu was well known. Elder Hua, do you know him? Hua Wudao nodded. I've heard a bit about him. Little Yuaner continued. Master slapped Gong Yuan to death. Then this Gong Yuandu ran out and wanted to fight with Master. But this guy is particularly cowardly, got scared by Master's majesty, and hid in the coffin, not daring to come out. Pavilion Lord slapped Gong Yuan to death. Upon hearing Little Yuaner's confirmation, Hua Wudao was completely stunned. He not only knew of a character like Gong Yuandu, but was also familiar with Great Void Temple's Kong Yuan. Long ago, Kong Yuan was a 7 leaves expert, and there were rumors of a breakthrough after his retreat. Otherwise, Monk Kong Xian wouldn't dare lead the monks to commit atrocities at the Runan sacred altar. Hua Wudao mused. Such a genius cultivator, killed by a slap from the Pavilion Lord? He found it hard to believe, but on second thought, there was no reason for Little Yuaner to lie, though she might be exaggerating or mistaking someone else. Thinking about this now was useless. They could simply ask the Pavilion Lord once his retreat ended. You mentioned Gong Yuandu earlier. He was also in the Sword Tomb? Hua Wudao continued to inquire. Yes, Little Yuaner replied. Duan Musheng, puzzled, asked, is Gong Yuandu very powerful? Hua Wudao nodded and began to explain. It's a long story. You might not believe it, but Gong Yuandu was a cultivator from the same period as the Pavilion Lord. To be precise, Gong Yuandu was about 100 years younger than the Pavilion Lord, a true cultivation genius. Like most high-level cultivators, he was destined to live a solitary life. Gong Yuandu was from the North Capital, and according to the records there, he began cultivating at 5, entered the Divine Court realm before 15. Over the next few centuries, he challenged experts everywhere. By 20, he had achieved the nascent Divinity Tribulation realm. No one knew how many leaves he had opened until he met the Pavilion Lord. Speaking of this, Hua Wudao chuckled. It's odd. The Pavilion Lord seems to be the bane of these cultivation geniuses. I was also confused when I lost to the Pavilion Lord back then. Hearing this, everyone rolled their eyes, thinking to themselves, isn't this just a roundabout way of praising himself? Not ashamed at all. Hua Wudao continued. However, compared to Gong Yuandu, I, the junior, fall far short. Gong Yuandu is proficient in Dao Seals and Zen, especially in swordsmanship. Since his defeat to the Pavilion Lord, he has challenged the Pavilion Lord every year, losing repeatedly and fighting repeatedly. Hearing this, Little Yuaner couldn't help but interject. Doesn't he get a psychological complex? Duan Mushing scratched his head, adding, I'm curious too. Hua Wudao coughed lightly, saying, in the later stages of cultivation, it's not only about testing one's will and perception, but also the state of mind. Gong Yuandu, after all, is a cultivation genius. His temperament far surpasses other cultivators. Otherwise, he couldn't possibly continue challenging so many masters. What happened later? Later, the Pavilion Lord took disciples, reached the pinnacle of cultivation, and was invincible. Gong Yuandu simply gave up challenging him. His only advantage was being younger than the Pavilion Lord. At that time, the cultivation world thought that, like everyone else, Gong Yuandu was just waiting for the Pavilion Lord to age. Unfortunately, since Gong Yuandu disappeared, he has never been seen again. Everyone sighed upon hearing this. When I joined the pavilion, the elder brother mentioned it. Now that you mention it, I do recall a bit, Duan Mushing said, his brow furrowed, asking, but with the master's temperament at that time, it doesn't make sense for Gong Yuandu to have always come out unscathed. How did he manage it? Hua Wudao shook his head. I don't know that. I've only heard it from others. Flowers and Moon Journey spoke up. Gong Yuandu is a master of swordsmanship, so it makes sense for him to be in the Sword Tomb to contemplate swordsmanship. But why would he hide in a coffin? Hua Wudao shook his head again, saying, that's probably a choice he was forced to make when he tried to break some rules of the cultivation world. In this vast world, there are always some cultivators who are greedy, attempting to break the truths and rules of the cultivation world. Every 1,000 years in the cultivation world, countless cultivators seek immortality, but all eventually fail. Little Yuan curiously asked, "Is the cultivation limit really unbreakable?" Hua Wudao took a deep breath and slowly said, "This truth has been verified by countless people. The oldest known lived to be 1,150 years old. But does that really break the 1,000-year limit? Not really. The 1,000-year limit is just a saying. Cultivators can extend their lifespan by increasing their cultivation level, but around 900 years, their cultivation begins to decline, and their lifespan can no longer be extended. For ordinary people, living to 100 is considered long-lived, and in all of great flame. Despite the countless ordinary people, those who reach 100 are still in the minority." After listening, Duan Mushing bowed to Hua Wudao. "I've learned a lot from Elder Hua's words. This knowledge was something their master had never taught them. Since entering the sect, aside from cultivating, it was just getting beaten up." Hua Wudao sighed inwardly, fully understanding Duan Mushing's hardships. Indeed, similar schools exist in the orthodox path, but none could match the distinction of the Evil Sky Pavilion. Little Yuaner fluttered her big eyes and said, "Gong Yuan Du said he would come to the Evil Sky Pavilion in a month, but he's already here. What genius. I think he's just a petty man." Hua Wudao shook his head and said no more. "It shouldn't be him. Gong Yuan Du holds himself in high regard and looks down on others. Someone with his deep-seated pride. How could he possibly follow up the mountain and help Evil Sky Pavilion kill rats? Such a demeaning act he would definitely not stoop to do." Hua Wudao analyzed. Little Yuaner muttered, "Gong Yuan Du is no good person. I was just saying." Hua Wudao said helplessly, "Little ancestor, a casual remark from you, and I have to explain for a long time." Flowers and Moon Journey expressed some concern. "Gong Yuan Du is so formidable, and he's coming to Evil Sky Pavilion in a month. Then what will happen?" Hua Wudao waved his hand and said, "Although the Pavilion Lord has been suppressing his aura, I observed the Pavilion Lord's state earlier, maintaining fluctuations at the Divine Court realm level, but there's a sharpness between his brows. If Gong Yuan Du comes, he will undoubtedly be defeated." Sharpness? Little Yuaner didn't understand how he could tell. Hua Wudao thickened his skin to reply, "Just a bit of physiognomy. After all, Cloud Sect comes from the Taoist tradition. I studied some Taoist methods in my early years, and know a bit about the art of face reading." Hearing this, Little Yuaner immediately perked up. "Elder Hua, then please take a look at me. What will happen to me in the future?" Hua Wudao said speechlessly, "Little ancestor, please don't ask anymore." He then unashamedly continued to praise Little Yuaner. "Your future achievements will surpass Gong Yuan Du's, making you the greatest cultivation genius of all time. Compared to you, even a talent like Gong Yuan Du seems a bit worthless." Hua Wudao certainly knew of Little Yuaner's cultivation talents. At her level, it was no longer simply a matter of talent. During his time in Evil Sky Pavilion, Hua Wudao had also tried to observe these disciples. Without observing, all was fine, but once he started, it made things even more inexplicable. The disciples of Evil Sky Pavilion weren't known for their diligent hard work, yet they progressed faster than other cultivators. Speaking of Duan Mushing, Hua Wudao had the most say. Duan Mushing had a strong competitive spirit, and to break his 6 union with the Dao Seals, he would often spar with him. Little Yuaner, flattered, exclaimed, "Am I that impressive?" "Of course. Then when I become more powerful, I'll try your 6 union with the Dao Seals and help you improve their defense," Little Yuaner said with a laugh. Hua Wudao was speechless, thinking, "It's always what you fear that happens." Duan Mushing, however, was not concerned with these matters. He asked, "Does Gong Yuan Du have the 8 leaves cultivation level?" Hua Wudao answered uncertainly, "He should." It seemed that an inevitable epic battle was looming. The barriers of Evil Sky Pavilion were already weakening and not suited for large-scale combat. Hua Wudao then suggested, "I think the wilderness 100 miles north of Golden Court Mountain would be more suitable for battle." Flowers and Moon Journey agreed. Indeed a good place. The northern wilderness is also suitable for viewing. If I could witness such a legendary battle, this lifetime would be worth it. Many people wish to watch high-level battles, but lament the lack of opportunity. Observing such fights often leads to insights and even breakthroughs in bottlenecks. For many cultivators with high comprehension, this is also an opportunity. That's not right. How did we get here? Back to the matter of the 5 rats. Whoever killed the 5 rats, they were helping Evil Sky Pavilion. Well done. We don't need to fret about who did it. Duan Mushing also nodded in agreement. Elder Hua speaks wisely. At that moment, Zhou Jifan quietly reminded, "The 5 rats are dead, Elder Hua. But what about the precious Zen robe?" Hua Wudao was speechless again, thinking to himself, what's going on today? Just when it was finally his turn to show some seniority while the Pavilion Lord was in retreat, these youngsters keep interrupting. Duan Mushing slapped his forehead. "I almost forgot. The precious Zen robe. The 8th brother's condition can only be controlled with the precious Zen robe." Hua Wudao showed an embarrassed expression. Now it seems, someone might have killed for gain and stolen the precious Zen robe. Pan Zhong also said, "Mr. 8's condition can't be delayed much longer." Hua Wudao furrowed his brows, deep in thought. During this time, Hua Wudao had also been pondering why the disciples of Evil Sky Pavilion all had various cultivation issues. He later realized that this might be a trap left by the old demon Ji to control those disciples who hadn't yet left. Zhou Jifeng suggested, "Should we ask the Pavilion Lord for instructions?" Little Yuaner shook her head head firmly, Master said when he went in. No one is allowed to come close this time. Hearing this, everyone was at a loss. With the Pavilion Lord's orders, they naturally dared not act rashly, especially considering past lessons. The consequences of another offense were unimaginable. Just as everyone was at a loss, a female cultivator hurried over, holding a pair of gold trousers embroidered with flowers. Elder Hua, someone left this item at the foot of Golden Court Mountain. These are Mr. 8's trousers. This is Mr. 8's precious Zen robe, everyone exclaimed. Hua Wudao furrowed his brows and asked, who brought it here? The female cultivator answered, it was an ordinary citizen from Tangzi town. How could an ordinary citizen retrieve the precious Zen robe from the 5 rats? Hua Wudao fell into deep thought. Sir, the person said that a woman in white clothes and white hair asked him to deliver the precious Zen robe to Evil Sky Pavilion. White clothes and white hair. Little Yuan blurted out, Sister 6. Only Yi Tianxin fit that description, and only she had a motive to help Evil Sky Pavilion. Everyone suddenly understood. Duan Mushing sighed. It must be Sister 6. Her cultivation must have almost recovered. It wouldn't be difficult for her to defeat the 5 rats, especially since they were already injured. Everyone nodded, surprised that it was Yi Tianxin, the 6th disciple of Evil Sky Pavilion, who had done this. Unfortunately, she had been expelled from the sect and was no longer part of Evil Sky Pavilion. Why would she do this? Did she want to return to Evil Sky Pavilion? All eyes turned toward the Eastern Pavilion, the only place where a decision could be made. At that moment, Lu Zhou was immersed in the new insights brought by the heavenly writing scroll. It was a marvelous feeling. He could sense the rustling of the wind and grass around him, yet everything seemed still. More precisely, he couldn't feel the passage of time, which was so comfortable that Lu Zhou didn't want to end this state too soon. Immersing in the heavenly writing was not easily achieved, so Lu Zhou decided not to interrupt his contemplation until it was time. 7 days quickly passed, and little Yuaner was guarding the Eastern Pavilion daily, occasionally practicing her movement techniques and Brahma Heaven Silk. Hua Wudao came over and inquired, any news yet? Has there been any movement from the Pavilion Lord? Little Yuaner shook her head, replying, no. Hua Wudao sighed helplessly. Alright. Little Yuaner consoled him. Master should be out soon. Elder Hua, no need to worry. I'm not worried, just concerned that Ming Shirin has not yet returned. Little Yuaner smiled and said, Elder Hua, you worry too much. Brother 4 is the craftiest person I've seen. Hua Wudao also laughed. That is true. Little Yuaner said, go back, Elder Hua. I'll inform you first when Master comes out. Thank you, Hua Wudao said, and then he left the Eastern Pavilion. Time swiftly passed, and another 7 days went by. Duan Mushing received a flying letter from Ming Shirin from the Divine Capital, stating that he would be bringing Zhao Yu back to Evil Sky Pavilion and needed some more time. He intended to report this to the Master, but upon reaching the Eastern Pavilion, he was stopped by Little Yuaner, and with no other option, he continued to wait. As the appointed month's meeting with Gong Yuandu neared, the people of Evil Sky Pavilion could no longer sit still. Hua Wudao, Duan Musheng, and others came again to the outside of the Eastern Pavilion. You have the highest cultivation, Elder Hua. Can you sense what's happening inside the pavilion? Duan Musheng asked. Hua Wudao shook his head. It's best not to disturb someone in seclusion. However, judging from the fluctuations of primal energy, the aura is calm and smooth, with no abnormalities. Seeing little Yuaner leisurely sitting on a tree, swinging her legs, Duan Musheng spoke. Little sister, go and ask Master to end his seclusion. Little Yuaner directly refused. I've said it many times. Third brother, we cannot disturb him. Master said that no one is allowed to disturb this seclusion, or there will be severe consequences. Duan Musheng scratched his head and reluctantly walked back. He had hoped little Yuaner might help, perhaps avoiding punishment, but she was clearly unwilling to intervene. Hua Wudao turned and walked away, sighing helplessly. If so, then we must follow the Pavilion Lord's wishes. He looked up at the barrier's force, sighing again. The barrier's power has weakened further. Duan Musheng expressed concern. Elder Hua, this isn't a solution. If Master continues his seclusion, who will deal with Gong Yuandu? Hua Wudao thought of Pan Lidian and Leng Luo, consoling. We will block the soldiers with generals and stem the water with earth. This matter cannot be rushed. Let's have Pan Zhong and Zhou Jifeng take some people to guard at the foot of Golden Court Mountain and report immediately if there's any movement. Duan Musheng asked, and us? Come with me, Hua Wudao said, and then led Duan Musheng toward the Western Pavilion. Soon, the two arrived outside Leng Luo's residence. Hua Wudao cleared his throat and called out loudly, Hua Wudao requests an audience. Duan Musheng followed suit, bowing his hands. In front of Leng Luo, Hua Wudao was indeed a junior. Then, with a creak, the door opened and Leng Luo, wearing a mask, stepped out, hands behind his back, his gaze falling on Hua Wudao and Duan Musheng. What is it? Leng Luo asked blandly. Hua Wudao got straight to the point. Evil Sky Pavilion may face peril. Please, Elder Leng, lend us your aid. Leng Luo chuckled hoarsely. What peril could there be? With you all, Evil Sky Pavilion is sufficient. Hua Wudao bowed and explained. The Pavilion Lord is currently in seclusion and cannot be disturbed. Now that Evil Sky Pavilion faces a formidable enemy, perhaps only Elder Leng can handle it. Leng Luo pointed next door. You can ask Old Pan. As soon as he finished speaking, the door next door creaked open and Pan Lidian, holding a wine gourd, lazily said, You're really not being decent. With the Pavilion Pavilion Lord in seclusion, you should be leading the charge. An old man like me can only mooch food and drink. Lin Luo scoffed. Less nonsense. Your cultivation is in recovery. Don't think I don't know. Pan Lydian retorted. Aren't you the same? This scene looked bizarre. After all, they were two top-tier masters, yet they bickered like children. Hua Wudao quickly interrupted their bickering. Elders, please hear me out. This person is a swordsmanship genius. Probably only the two of you can handle him. If both of you could join forces against the enemy, wouldn't that be wonderful? Lin Luo and Pan Lydian both looked at Hua Wudao. You come from Cloud Sect, and your mastery of the Six Union with the Dao Seals is profound. Can't you handle it? Hua Wudao showed an embarrassed expression. I'm only skilled in defense, not in offense. Moreover, this person's cultivation far surpasses mine. Far surpasses you? Lin Luo was slightly startled. He had seen much of the world, and there were few cultivators of the same rank who could match the Pavilion Lord. So, who is this person? A swordsmanship genius? Hua Wudao nodded in response. Exactly. Lin Luo dismissively said. Cloud Sect's Luo Changqing, Sword Saint Luo 13, and others. They are all juniors and not worthy of my challenge. Hua Wudao was even more embarrassed now. If it were those two, he could handle it himself, being their senior. This person is named Gong Yuan Du. Upon hearing this name, Pan Li Tian's wine gourd dropped from his hand with a snap, and he froze for a moment, his right finger trembling slightly. Although Lin Luo wore a mask, his eyes revealed a shocked expression, clearly unsettled as well. He quickly coughed, covering up old age. Can't even hold a gourd anymore. I have to admit, Elder Lung, I am far less capable than you. This kind of swordsmanship genius, it's better you handle him. Why is there no wine? What's the difference between life without wine and death? I'm off to find some wine. Pan Lydian sighed and turned to leave. Lin Luo moved swiftly, blocking his way. I know you love wine, and considering your mobility issues, I had some prepared for you, placed in your courtyard. Pan Lydian looked puzzled. Really? Lin Luo slightly lifted his hand, and a weak forceful energy wrapped around a jar of wine, floating it into his palm. 100-year brew. Pan Lydian was at a loss for words, while Lin Luo gave a hoarse sigh. In terms of cultivation insights and achievements, I indeed surpass you, but alas, I am severely injured, and my energy C and energy center are not recovering as quickly as yours. You have the Black Magnolia to aid you. If you were to fight with all your might, even to the death, Gong Yuan Du would not dare to underestimate you. Upon hearing this, Pan Lydian darkened. Fight to the death? Is it really that serious? Lin Luo said. I heard that you promised in front of the Pavilion Lord that your life belongs to Evil Sky Pavilion. Don't shirk now. The whole Evil Sky Pavilion, only you have the ability to stop Gong Yuan Du. Pan Lydian retorted strongly. If it's necessary for me to fight to the death, I will. I don't shirk responsibility or cower. Watching the two bicker endlessly, Hua Wudao and Duan Mushing hurriedly interjected. Please, both elders, act together. Both of you are equally matched. Why look down on each other? Meanwhile, inside the catacombs of the Sword City Cemetery, the dark coffin began to move slowly. No one emerged from the coffin. It floated in midair, slowly flying out of the catacomb entrance, through the 7 deadly arrays, and left the Sword Cemetery. As the coffin reached the cave entrance, it paused momentarily, hovering in place, perhaps hesitant, perhaps because it had been in the dark for too long. Suddenly coming to the outside world felt unsettling. After hovering for a moment, a heavy sigh came from inside the coffin, and then it accelerated suddenly, flying toward the direction of Evil Sky Pavilion. At that moment, in a tranquil small building, Yi Zhixing came to Si Wuya's side. It has been confirmed. The 5 rats are dead, their bodies laid at the foot of Golden Court Mountain, Yi Zhixing reported. Si Wuya asked calmly, who killed them? Yi Zhixing answered, a woman in white clothes and white hair. No other information known. Si Wuya gazed into the distance, pondering for a moment, then slowly said, Sister 6. Yi Zhixing, surprised, asked, was it done by Evil Sky Pavilion's 6th mister? Si Wuya smiled slightly. Check her location. I want to meet her. Yi Zhixing promptly responded, yes, there is another matter to report. After the great chaos in Upper Prime City, Divine Capital sent troops to quell the unrest, and the city's guard General Shang is dead. The sect leader was very pleased to hear this. A month ago he led 10,000 from the underworld sect to attack the Orthodox sect. The Orthodox sect was overwhelmed. Their leader Zhang Yuanshan has disappeared. Now, the territory of the Orthodox sect has been annexed by the underworld sect. Si Wuya sighed. Big brother is always too impatient. There was no need for such action. According to my original plan, Zhang Yuanshan could not have escaped. The sect leader does not care about Zhang Yuanshan's life or death. He wants to completely eliminate the roots. Big brother's actions were not thorough enough. Yi Zhixing flattered. The sect leader is wise, but your support for the sect leader, if Elder 2 becomes upset. Si Wuya smiled slightly. I will explain it to second brother myself. Don't worry. Yi Zhixing nodded. The influence of the underworld sect is growing stronger. I worry that your great achievements might overshadow the master. Historically, those who achieve too much tend to end badly. Now, Si Wuya indeed played the role of overshadowing the master. He unconditionally and vigorously helped the underworld sect in the shadows, which is why the underworld sect has its current strength. Even when Yu Zhenghai offered generous terms, Si Wuya flatly refused. After all, their relationship as brothers within the same sect was much deeper than ordinary relationships. The problem is, Yu Zhenghai has has the ambition to conquer the world. How can such a person control the world without some imperial strategies? Yi Zhixing said. Hearing this, Siwei turned to look at him. Zhixing, what do you think is the purpose of a cultivator's existence? Yi Zhixing was slightly startled, not expecting the sect leader to suddenly ask such a question. He thought about it, needing to strike a balance between not being too profound and not appearing superficial. Feel free to speak your mind, Siwei added. Hearing this, Yi Zhixing thought for a moment before speaking. Sect leader, in my opinion, a cultivator steps on the path of cultivation to increase their strength. The greater the strength, the greater the desires. Siwei nodded. Your understanding is not bad. I'll tell you more about other things when there's a chance. I will heed the sect leader's teachings. A day quickly passed. At the foot of Golden Court Mountain, the female cultivators patrolled the area as ordered by Hua Wudao. Pan Zhong and Zhou Jifeng hung from tree branches, gazing into the distance. There, the blue barrier showed clear fluctuations. Pan Zhong spoke. With the pavilion lord in seclusion, could it be he plans to draw the remaining power of the barrier? Zhou Jifeng shook his head. Hard to say. If so, I hope the barrier's power can hold out a little longer. Do you regret it? Never. If you were asked to die, would you? Brother Pan, you're really something. Trying to catch me out. Zhou Jifeng laughed. As the two chatted, the female cultivators of Evil Sky Pavilion noticed a dark spot in the distance. Pan Zhong and Zhou Jifeng looked over simultaneously, only to see a coffin slowly flying through the sky. The female cultivators all drew their weapons, staring tensely at the approaching coffin as if facing a formidable enemy. Pan Zhong's eyes widened. I've lived a long time, but it's my first time seeing someone travel like this. Have you ever seen it? Zhou Jifeng stared blankly, swallowing hard. Never seen. How does he travel? Did he dig a hole under the coffin? You're asking me? Who should I ask? Pan Zhong was speechless. The female cultivators all retreated back to the entrance of Golden Court Mountain. Pan Zhong and Zhou Jifeng jumped down from the tree and stood shoulder to shoulder at the forefront. You go back and report to the elders. Zhou Jifeng hurriedly instructed, and the female cultivator immediately responded yes before quickly leaving. The coffin gradually lowered its altitude, skimming close to the ground. It seemed to be enveloped by a special forceful energy, with eerie black mist swirling around it, which drifted with the wind like a black tail, making it look quite terrifying. The coffin stopped in front of the crowd, hovering in the air. Everyone was so frightened that they dared not breathe. They had never seen such an entrance in their lives. It was both nerve-wracking and frightening. Perhaps it was human nature's instinctive reverence for something like a coffin. They appeared helpless and unsure of what to do upon seeing it. The atmosphere was extremely oppressive, and after what seemed like a long time, the coffin finally emitted a hoarse voice. Golden Court Mountain. Zhou Jifeng, suppressing his nerves, bowed and asked, please, may I ask, are you Elder Gong? Gong Yuandu in the coffin let out a mocking laugh. You seem very nervous. Zhou Jifeng's forehead beaded with sweat, thinking to himself, how could I not be nervous? Gong Yuandu sighed. So many years have passed, and I still do not merit Ji Tiandao personally coming down to greet me. How shameful. Pan Zhong and Zhou Jifeng's faces showed embarrassment. Gong Yuandu continued, lead the way. Zhou Jifeng gathered his courage and said, Elder Gong, the pavilion lord is unwell. Could you possibly come another day? Hearing this, the primal energy fluctuations around the coffin instantly intensified. Gong Yuandu let out a deep laugh that made everyone's skin crawl. Not knowing why Gong Yuandu laughed, Zhou Jifeng decisively ordered, retreat back behind the barrier. Everyone was filled with worry, uncertain if the barrier could withstand the power of this swordsmanship genius. The barrier's strength is unimaginably weak. Can it withstand a powerful being like Gong Yuandu? Of course, it cannot. The coffin passed through the barrier as if entering a land with no resistance and entered the interior of Golden Court Mountain. Upon seeing this, everyone present was stunned. The coffin continued to hover above their heads, as if a pair of eyes were watching them. Pan Zhong noticed the patterns beneath the coffin and exclaimed in surprise, these are ray patterns. This isn't an ordinary coffin. How else could it have remained uncorroded and undamaged in Sword City for so many years? Gong Yuandu's raspy voice sounded. The younger generation is indeed formidable. At this moment, Zhou Jifeng drew his sword, ready to fight, and said, Elder Gong, it would be best if you could come back another day. Divine Court Realm? Gong Yuandu's laughter was filled with disdain, clearly not taking him seriously. In the next second, the coffin dived down abruptly, the powerful, forceful energy enveloping it directly, forcing everyone to retreat in disarray. This single strike was enough to prove that Gong Yuandu possessed at least the cultivation of the nascent divinity Tribulation Realm. Divine Court Realm. After all, it is only Divine Court Realm. Even 100 Divine Court Realm cultivators cannot withstand a single nascent soul. However, the coffin did not deal a lethal blow. After dispersing its forceful energy, it hovered behind the crowd. Gong Yuandu said in a low tone, lead the way. Just then, a female cultivator hurried down from the mountain and delivered a message. The elder is invited to come up the mountain. Elder Hua has given the order. Hearing the message, Zhou Jifeng and Pan Zhong finally breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly said, this way, please, elder. In front of the Grand Hall of Evil Sky Pavilion, Leng Luo, Pan Litian, and Hua Wudao stood at the forefront, with Duan Mushing and Little Yuaner on either side, and the other disciples lined up behind them. The coffin hovered in front of them, facing off against them. Upon truly seeing this coffin, Lung Luo and Pan Litian shook their heads internally, marveling. In this vast world, all marvels exist. Although they were experienced and knowledgeable elders, this was the first time they had encountered such a bizarre situation, a coffin coming to cause trouble. Who would believe it? After a long silence, the coffin finally spoke. "Where's Brother Ji?" Lung Luo calmly replied, "The Pavilion Lord is currently in seclusion." He spoke openly. After all, they were both centuries-old foxes who understood what the other was thinking. At such a time, playing coy served no purpose. It was better to be straightforward. Seclusion? Gong Yuandu's voice sounded deep and questioning. "Do you believe that?" Pan Litian responded lightly. "Ever since returning from the Sword Tomb, the Pavilion Lord has been in seclusion. If you don't believe it, there's nothing we can do." At this moment, the commentator with a square face took the opportunity to blend in, eagerly observing the situation. The coffin swayed from side to side, its primal energy fluctuations spreading outwards and then suddenly disappearing, returning the scene to an eerie quiet. The coffin hovered between Lung Luo and Pan Litian and came to a stop. "Who are you?" Gong Yuandu's raspy voice asked, evidently questioning the two of them. Lung Luo no longer concealed anything and answered indifferently, "Lung Luo." Pan Litian initially wanted to announce his name directly, but he stopped as the words reached his lips, recalling some past events of Clarity Sect, and instead said, "I'm just a beggar, not worth mentioning." "Lung Luo?" Gong Yuandu chuckled. "If I remember correctly, you were one of the top masters on the blacklist 300 years ago. And as for you, when did Ji Tiandao become so benevolent as to take an beggar?" Pan Litian replied lightly, "Pavilion Lord is magnanimous, and I chose to stay of my own volition." Interesting, interesting. Gong Yuandu laughed lightly, seemingly hearing someone praise Ji Tiandao for the first time. It was unusual, as he was more accustomed to hearing curses than praises. Lung Luo spoke. "Gong Yuandu, if you are here to challenge Pavilion Lord, I'm afraid you will be disappointed. I have joined Evil Sky Pavilion, and Pavilion Lord is currently in seclusion." Gong Yuandu was silent for a moment. Although he was hidden within the coffin, everyone could clearly sense that he was contemplating something. After a while, he spoke again. "Lung Luo, you are injured, so there's no need to try to intimidate me. As for you, old beggar, your aura might be weak, but after being tempered over many years, it's quite remarkable. Unfortunately, with your current level of cultivation, you have no chance of defeating me." Gong Yuandu's voice was filled with confidence. This statement surprised Lung Luo and Pan Litian, who exchanged looks, and others were also taken aback. Normally, masters in combat often hide their true strength. How could Gong Yuandu so easily see through theirs? Lung Luo, recalling the primal energy fluctuations he noticed under the coffin earlier, seemed to understand something and said lightly, "You do have some tricks up your sleeve." Gong Yuandu, the swordsmanship genius from the north, has lived for 900 years but still hasn't solved the problem of the life limit. After this exchange, there was silence. Gong Yuandu had come with the coffin, making his intentions clear. He was prepared to die. If he were in his prime, why would he fear death? Laughter echoed from the coffin again. "In my life, not being able to solve the problem of the life limit was one of my only two regrets, the other being unable to defeat Ji Tiandao. Unfortunately, my time is running short. Let's not talk about the former. If the latter could be resolved, that would be enough." Lung Luo's expression hardened as he coldly said, "If you want to win against Pavilion Lord, you'll have to get past me first." "And me," added Pan Litian. "And me," Hua Wudao said. "And us," Duan Musheng and Little Yuaner said together. "And us." Pan Zhong, Zhou Jifeng, and the female cultivators all drew their swords, instantly tensing the atmosphere. Facing the unified resistance of everyone at Evil Sky Pavilion, a battle seemed inevitable. Even the animals of Evil Sky Pavilion seemed to join in, as if they too were shouting, "And us." Seeing this, Gong Yuandu remarked with emotion, "One generation passes to the next. Very good." After saying this, eerie black mist began to emanate from around the coffin. This was not a sign of attack, but rather the symbols etched around the coffin slowly fading, as if Gong Yuandu was voluntarily weakening his power. The onlookers were puzzled, wondering what was going on. The coffin slowly descended to the ground. Seeing this, Lung Luo was almost certain. Gong Yuandu's cultivation has severely declined. With your current strength, you can't even break through Hua Wudao's 6 union with the Dao seals. How could you possibly challenge Pavilion Lord? Everyone's eyes were fixed on the coffin, wondering why he would come here in such a weakened state. It seemed to be a false alarm. Hua Wudao bowed and introduced himself, Junior Hua Wudao of Cloud Sect. Gong Yuandu completely retracted the power around the coffin and softly uttered 4 words, discussing swords with Dao. The crowd looked at each other, confused. In the world of cultivation, although there are many different doctrines, all essentially involve manipulating the energy sea or surrounding primal energy into forceful energy. Only the philosophies differ among the schools of Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism. Taoism has developed various methods of cultivation, particularly excelling in swordsmanship. Many cultivators who favor swordsmanship choose Taoist cultivation techniques. Figures like Jian Aijian, Cloud Sect's Luo Shisan, Luo Changqing, Sword Fanatic Chen Wenjia, and even Lung Luo and Pan Litian all stem from Taoist cultivation philosophies, sharing the same origins but differing in individual interpretations. Thus, under Taoism, there is a clash of of many schools of thought. Some excel in evasion, some in defense, others in attack, and some with high perceptiveness develop new styles of swordsmanship, like Gong Yuan do. Discussing swords? Pan Lydian laughed heartily. I thought you were here for a fight to the death. Duan Mushing heaved a sigh of relief. Then it's not my business. Verbal sparring is Old Fourth's forte, not mine. Little Yuaner also chimed in jokingly. Oh, I don't want to be a quarrelsome woman in the future. I'm not good at arguing. Pan Lydian looked towards the coffin and chuckled. If it's truly about discussing swords, Little Yuaner could beat you. Lin Luo nodded in agreement, and Zhou Jifeng and Pan Zhong also unanimously said, we also agree. Little Yuaner reluctantly said, is this supposed to be a compliment? At that moment, the coffin slightly vibrated, emitting a strange sound, and a faint primal energy formed an aura around it, clearly showing that Gong Yuan Du inside the coffin was somewhat irritated. Discussing swords isn't just about talk, it must also be put into practice. Pan Lydian was confused. You mean, to discuss and fight at the same time? This remark instantly tightened the previously relaxed atmosphere again. This man is definitely insane, and seriously so. Gong Yuan Du explained, it's not necessary to fight to the death. Cultivators from the quenched body realm to the mystic and lightning realm learn to control primal energy, and only in the divine court realm do they govern the ways of cultivation. Using the method of the Tao to control the primal energy of the mystic and lightning realm, to discuss the Tao through the sword, is indeed the essence of swordsmanship. Pan Lydian laughed heartily. I understand now. You mean to say, we use only the mystic and lightning realm's cultivation level, no weapons, and we don't activate our avatars, just competing in understanding and sword techniques, right? In short, suppress the cultivation levels and purely compete in the understanding of swordsmanship. This is the best approach for both parties. After all, Lin Luo and Pan Lydian's cultivation levels have not yet recovered, and though Duan Mushing and Little Yuaner are not low in cultivation, they wouldn't have an advantage if they really fought to the death. After all, Gong Yuandu is a dying man, but still a formidable master not to be underestimated. After Gong Yuandu finished speaking, he tilted the coffin at an angle, high on one side and low on the other, seemingly positioning it in a stance ready for a competition. The outcome will be decided later, he said softly. Hua Wudao waved his hand. The younger generation need not participate. At this level, what matters more is the understanding of the swordsmanship. Just watch carefully. Pan Lydian and Lin Luo exchanged a look, their expressions growing more solemn. I will go, Lin Luo said, and then took several steps forward. As he entered the arena, several irregularly shaped, icicle-like sword energies suddenly appeared around the coffin, looking quite bizarre. The essence of swordsmanship can summon primal energy, solidifying into energy and forming blades. With mystic and lightning realm cultivation, at most only 2 sword energies can be condensed. As Lin Luo stepped into the arena, the sword energies around the coffin gradually dissipated, leaving only 2. Lin Luo raised his right hand, palm facing downward, and said solemnly, it's not about quantity, but quality. As soon as the words fell, a relatively thicker and larger sword energy appeared in his palm. Though it was a sword energy of mystic and lightning realm cultivation, its power was not to be underestimated. Hua Wudao explained from the side, this is a clash of swordsmanship philosophies. Let's see who can prevail. In the next second, the sword energies on either side of the coffin spun out, heading straight for Lin Luo. At the same time, the sword energy in Lin Luo's hand also shot out rapidly. The coffin suddenly flipped 360 degrees upward, dodging Lin Luo's sword energy using only mystic and lightning realm cultivation. Simultaneously, Lin Luo's figure flickered, avoiding one of the sword energies. With a bang, another sword energy unexpectedly struck Lin Luo's arm. Lin Luo quickly raised his hand, neutralizing the force of the sword energy, which then dissipated. The scene suddenly quieted down, and everyone looked puzzled, not clear who had won or lost. There were no fancy fights, no strong primal energy fluctuations, and no conspiracies or tricks. Everything seemed extraordinarily plain, yet filled with unfathomable depths of swordsmanship. Only an understanding of swordsmanship. Lin Luo bowed his hands. He did not want to argue, nor was there a need to. From the moment he wielded the sword energy, he knew the outcome. Even if he had taken it more seriously, at best he could have lasted a few more moves. The result would not have changed. Better to admit defeat graciously and end it all. Hua Wudao continued as the commentator. Senior Lung's barehanded interception of the sword energy was indeed proper and perfect. Unfortunately, having just surpassed the quenched body realm, one cannot catch sword energies barehanded in the mystic and lightning realm. If it were mystic and lightning realm sword techniques, the path of this sword energy would not just be an arm, it would probably be the neck. However, Senior Lung excels in the art of concealment. Swordsmanship is not his forte. Lin Luo bowed and stepped back, and Pan Lydian then stepped forward. He first took a sip of wine and casually tossed the wine gourd to Pan Zhong. I am not Lin Luo. After all, Lin Luo is still too green, lacking in experience. Hearing this, Lin Luo remained silent. A loss is a loss. There was nothing to explain, and he was tired of hearing these trite remarks, utterly devoid of novelty. Gong Yuandu's voice rose again. Old beggar? Pan Lydian nodded. Indeed, it is I. Gong Yuandu continued. The way of the sword, mystic and lightning realm, can generate yin and yang, transform into Tai Chi, produce the four phenomena, and continue endlessly, ceaselessly. Pan Lydian chuckled. If it's the mystic enlightening realm, at most it can only condense two sword energies, not to mention ceaselessness. I doubt it can even achieve the four phenomena. I've traveled far and wide and seen many masters of swordsmanship. Are you trying to use forceful energy to set up a sword formation, creating the four phenomena, to achieve an effect of endless continuation? Hearing this, Gong Yuandu obviously became interested and responded softly, interesting. Pan Lydian looked at Leng Luo proudly. I've said it before, I am not Leng Luo. Gong Yuandu smiled slightly. Then let me see your method of breaking it. As soon as he finished speaking, a Tai Chi circle over 2 meters in diameter appeared beneath the coffin, alternating between yin and yang. Sword energies hovered above the circle, emitting a heart-pounding power. Seeing this, Leng Luo applauded with interest. To reach such a level with mystic enlightening realm, old Pan, you might as well concede. Pan Lydian frowned, staring at the Tai Chi circle on the ground, feeling quite amazed. Although he was well-traveled and knew of such theories, among all the swordsmanship geniuses in the world, no one had actually realized this theory. The study of swordsmanship in the world had long lost its original purpose and value. How many of today's sword cultivators still care about the essence of swordsmanship? Most are only concerned with how to increase the lethality and methods of killing. The scene sparked Pan Lydian's interest, preparing him for battle. Although Pan Lydian did not know how Gong Yuandu had done it, he was indeed interested in this sword technique and eager to learn from it. Zhou Jifeng, Pan Zhong, and many female disciples were dazzled by this. It was their first time seeing Elder Pan in action, and the first time seeing this legendary old man manipulating primal energy. An old beggar, a once cultivator whose cultivation had been destroyed, losing his ability to cultivate, finally revealed a shadow of his past.